At the bottom of the list, of all the Magic Knights in Black Clover at the end of the series, I have Seke Bronzaska with an overall threat level of 2.2 out of 10. So basically he's really weak. The only good thing about him though is his incredible luck. Somehow he keeps failing upwards. Seke uses bronze magic to create and manipulate bronze constructs. He doesn't have much firepower since most of his magic is used defensively. One of his only notable feats in Black Clover universe is when he uses his magic to protect the king. But even that was just a lucky mistake. Solid Silva with an overall threat level of 3.8 out of 10. So yeah, still super weak. Maybe if his name was Liquid, we'd see more versatility in his powers. Solid is one of Noel's brothers and is also part of the Silver Eagle. He's extremely sadistic towards his sister. His powers are quite similar to Noel, as in he uses Liquid to create constructs. However, he has little to no tactical maturity. He's a typical royal combatant who believes that only nobles have actual power and that regular common folk are beneath him. His attitude towards Noel changes drastically later in the series. This is simply because Noel whoops his ass during the Royal Knight selection exam. Claw's Lunettes. He has an overall threat level of 4.5 out of 10, getting more dangerous but not quite there. The very first time we see him, two complete noobs completely outclass him. Claus is a member of the Golden Dawn and uses steel magic. His magic is quite versatile, since he can use it both offensively and defensively. In battle, he creates heavy steel walls and fortifications to protect his teammates from attacks. We first see him in action during the dungeon exploration arc. It wasn't a great introduction because he was quickly defeated by Mars even though he was technically the senior mage on site. As the series goes on, Claus grows as a person, slowly accepting non-nobles like Asta and Yuno. He admits that as mages they are better than him, but he doesn't grow much as a mage. Up next is Mereoleona Vermillion. Though she isn't dangerous offensively, she's one of the best healers in the kingdom, so her overall threat stands at 5 out of 10. If she wasn't so wholesome, I'd make a tentacle joke. Mimosa uses plant magic, but combines it with recovery magic to become one of the most overpowered healers in the entire Black Clover universe. Her abilities played a huge part in reducing casualties in the battle against Lucifero. But as a support mage, she has extremely low offensive capabilities. The maximum she can do is use her vines to restrain enemies, but this only works against lower level enemies. Against stronger mages, she's mostly useless. Finral Rulakas. He could be a much more serious threat if he chooses to use his powers offensively, but for now he's a 5.5 out of 10. The wizard version of instant transmission. Finral is a pacifist, so he refuses to use his abilities to hurt anyone. However, he uses his abilities to be the transport mule of the most chaotic squad in the kingdom, the Black Bulls. His core abilities are spatial magic, which he uses to bypass physical distance and transport allies. He also uses his abilities defensively by redirecting incoming elemental attacks to previously seen or marked spatial coordinates. Gordon Agrippa with an overall threat of 5.8 out of 10. Despite how he looks, he's actually pretty wholesome. Gordon is a member of the Black Bulls and he's extremely unique visually. His magic is a combination of poison magic and curse wording magic. The interesting thing about him is that he's figured out how to convert toxic compounds into medicines. At the same time, he can convert curses into strengthening buffs. The cool part is that he can do this mid-battle, but his limitations are self-imposed. He's genuinely gentle. He holds back his most lethal spells because he does not want to hurt people. Kirsch Vermillion, we're getting serious now, with an overall threat level of 5.8 out of 10. Senbun Sakura, anyone? Kirsch uses the power of cherry blossom magic to generate and manipulate vast quantities of pink flower petals. If he wasn't a mage, Mount Hua would definitely take him in, but Coral Peacock got there first. However, he lacks the ability to use those petals for attack purposes. They're primarily used to blind enemy targets, disrupt mana sensing grids, and even create lifelike petal clones that can redirect magic. He does this with great effect against the reincarnated elves, where he disrupted the visual and magical senses of multiple reincarnated squads. Next is Leopold Vermillion, our first fire mage. With his aggressive nature, he sits at an overall threat of 6 out of 10. This is the first fire character that isn't overpowered, and that's kind of refreshing. Leopold Vermillion is a member of the Crimson Lion. His older siblings are legendary mages and because of that he always lives in their shadow. He's highly aggressive as a mage, using physical reinforcement magic to close the distance in combat. He usually follows that up with massive fireballs and flame arrays that completely destroy the target armor. He plays a huge role in the final battle against Lucius the Gratis, where he joined his siblings. They combined their fire magic to destroy Lucius' massive spell that could have killed every citizen in the Clover Kingdom. Henry Legoland with an overall threat of 6.2 out of 10. I get this guy. I mean, I'd never leave my house if it could transform into a giant robot. Henry's a member of the Black Bulls, but for the longest time, no one outside the squad even knew that he existed. The reason for that is because his body absorbs mana of anyone near him. His magic gives him complete control over the entire Black Bull's hideout. Using recombination magic, he can assemble the entire base into different forms and use it to attack, with which his signature move is transforming the base into the Raging Bull. This is a construct that can deliver powerful physical strikes, but without the hideout, he is nothing. He's completely bedridden. Then there's the issue of mana absorption as well, because even his allies are not exempt. Nobody's safe. Zora Ideal, with a threat level of 6.5 out of 10. Zora is a perfect example of brains beating brawn. He's part of the Black Bulls and is actually a commoner who hates corrupt nobility. He uses ash magic, but combines it with trap magic to generate runic circles on physical surfaces and even in his own skin. His combat style usually involves using runic circles to store the energy of his opponents, and fire it back at the source with double its power. He uses his abilities to great effect in the Royal Knights exam arc, by dominating a senior vice captain in seconds. However, he requires a lot of physical drawing time to program the runic circles. Also, purely physical attacks that do not use mana bypass his reflective traps completely. Magna Swing, with a threat level of 6.7 out of 10. Though he's a low level mage, he's also secured one of the greatest victories in Black Clover. Magna is a commoner and has low mana reserves. His powers are fire based magic, and he uses that to manipulate high temperature explosive flame projectiles. But he has one incredible spell, which is a Soul Chain Deathmatch. This is an advanced form of runic chain magic. It physically links his soul to the targets and splits their combined magical power between the two of them equally. Magna uses this particular ability to great effect in battle against Dante Zagratis. He splits the magical capacity of a supreme devil host and then beats him unconscious just using his fists. That my dog. Gray the Shapeshifter, with an overall threat level of 6.8 out of 10. Imagine not being a healer and still being better than most healers. Gray's a member of the Black Bulls, and the interesting thing is that her powers are connected to her personality. She's so shy that she spends most of her time disguised as someone else. But her magic isn't just transformation, it is actually transmutation, and it operates at an arcane level. She can rewrite the physical properties of matter, change the elemental composition of spells, and even modify the molecular structure of biological cells. She was able to heal a fatal wound on Gosh by reconstructing his cells at a biological level that most healing magic cannot reach. Her weakness is psychological. If you can force her out of her transformation, her social anxiety kicks in and disrupts her casting. And the other issue is that she can't attack at all. Luck Voltia. Here come the big leagues. He has an overall threat level of 7 out of 10. Luck is proof that mommy issues always make you a psychopath. Luck Voltia is a senior magic knight and a member of the Black Bulls. He's obsessed with battle. He uses lightning magic to generate shape and project high frequency electrical currents. He coats his limbs in localized lightning boots and gloves to dramatically boost his physical reaction speeds, reflexes, and striking power. His trauma regarding his mother causes him to constantly fight others to prove his superiority. At the same time, he also hates being helped. If he was abused anymore, he'd probably be taking Jack the Ripper's name. In other words, he uses electrical armor to transform his body into a living thunderbolt. Luck also has incredible natural talent for mana sensing, and he uses this to read and predict physical trajectories of attacks in battle. Langris Vaude sits at a threat level of 7.2 out of 10, which is pretty good. If you think about it, Langris was just getting in touch with his inner Kane. He's a member of the Golden Dawn. Like Finral, he also uses spatial magic to generate highly offensive coordinates of erased space. Unlike Finral's transport portals, Langris's use of his power is destructive. He generates floating spheres and arrays of spatial energy. This physically erases any matter, spell, or barrier it crosses, effectively bypassing physical defense systems. Using these powers, he was actually able to stall Xenon Zagratis. Xenon Zagratis' spatial mana domination. One issue is that his spatial magic is highly dependent on mental calculation. If his concentration is disrupted or his mind is attacked psychologically, his attacks can fail. One of the most epic moments involving Langris is when he tries to channel his inner Kane and kill Finral, only to be stopped by all of the Black Bulls at once. Gosh Adlai, with an overall threat of 7.2 out of 10. A brilliant tactical mind wrapped around a single, all-consuming priority, his sister. Everything else is a distant second for this guy. Gosh is a member of the Black Bulls. He uses mirror magic to generate and position physical mirror constructs across a battlefield. He can create real double to create a physical copy of himself. Another useful power is Mirror's Brigade, which takes a single ally's output and multiplies it across a field-spanning array of reflective surfaces. One high output mage becomes many. He also has a magic tool in his left eye, where he stores additional mana. One of his best moments was the battle against Licht during the Midnight Sun arc, where he reflected a supreme light magic spell back with enough force to heavily injure an elven leader. However, he still does have weaknesses. One is his sister, Marie. The thought of her in danger is enough to change his entire character. Another weakness is Yami's dark magic. It shuts down his mirror completely. Water magic also causes problems for him. Kaiser Grenvorka sits at an overall threat of 7.4 out of 10. Even though he mostly uses defensive magic, he basically exists to show that even support classes can become captains. Kaiser Grenvorka is the captain of the Purple Orca. He's known as the unyielding shield of the Clover Kingdom. He uses vortex magic to generate, shape, and rotate high-density magical currents. He uses this vortex mostly defensively. He usually disperses, redirects, and neutralizes the kinetic force and magical energy of incoming spells. During the Elf Reincarnation arc, he used this ability to absorb and redirect the physical impact of a mountain-sized demon. However, he doesn't have any offensive finishing spells to finish enemies off. Also, his currents can be bypassed by spatial magic. Charlotte Roselei, 7.6 out of 10. She is the embodiment of making lemonade with life's lemons. Being the captain of the Blue Rose, she uses briar magic to generate, shape, and manipulate thorny rose vines. The interesting thing about her is that she was actually initially trapped under a powerful family curse. However, she turned her weakness into a specialized anti-curse weapon. When she mastered that curse, she became able to use her true Crimson Briars to actively absorb and feed on surrounding negative mana, curses, and devil magic. Her Blue Rose Briars would grow stronger and physically restrict targets. Charlotte's Blue Rose Briars are naturally restricted and compared to her true Crimson Rose Vines. This is because they require the presence of negative mana or curses to reach their peak absorption potential. She also lacks an ultra high speed physical mobility spell. Vanessa Anoteka, 7.8 out of 10. She's the ultimate gaslighter, like an ex that you don't want to remember. She's a magic knight of the Black Bulls, uses thread magic to generate and manipulate physical magical threads for binding and guidance. But the part that breaks conventional combat logic is Rouge. Rouge is the red thread of fate, a small fate manipulating cat that Vanessa manifests as her masterpiece spell. Once Rouge is active, she operates on a layer above standard magic. She doesn't block incoming attacks or reinforce defenses. She manipulates casuality directly, rewriting local reality so that the outcomes harmful to Vanessa's allies simply don't occur. Dante's crushing gravity during the Spade Kingdom raid didn't get tanked or deflected. Rouge edited the result before it could register. It has a high cost though. Rouge demands continuous heavy mana drainage to stay active. Cut off Vanessa's access to a mana restoring source and fate manipulation disappears quickly, leaving her with binding threads and no offensive options whatsoever. She wins fights by making her allies undefeatable. Alone, she doesn't really win fights. Nozel Silva, 8 out of 10. This guy dealt with his trauma of losing his mother by doing the best thing, bullying his sister. Nozel is the captain of the Silver Eagle and the eldest of House Silva, and on the battlefield he's genuinely terrifying. He uses mercury magic to generate and manipulate liquid metal constructs. The core of what makes him dangerous is his ability to transform mercury. Spells like Silver Guardian let him flip between strong shields for defense and fluid high-velocity mercury arrows that punch clean through enemy defenses. He can easily switch from offense to defense. That adaptability showed up perfectly against Dark Elf Patry. Light-based magic at high speed is a nightmare matchup for most mages, but Nozel used the reflective properties of his Mercury Ares to outmaneuver him and shut him down completely. He also contributed directly to destroying Magicula's heart during the Spade Kingdom raid. And that should look pretty good on his resume after all. Coordinating strikes against the Supreme Devil is not a small line, but he still has weaknesses. Mercury is still a physical substance at the end of the day. High density gravity magic or spatial erasure that bypass physical mass entirely can rip through it. He also has unresolved trauma regarding his mother's death, which could cause him to lose his composure during battle. Fuegoleon Vermillion has an overall threat of 8.2 out of 10. Dude lost an arm and said, "No thanks." He's the captain of the Crimson Line and everything about him commands respect. On the battlefield, his presence alone is half the work done. He uses fire magic to generate and project massive flames. Later in the story, he gets a massive power-up with Fire Spirit Salamander. Salamander dramatically expands his natural mana reserves, making his flames even more destructive. He vaporized dense steel constructs instantly using Salamander's breath during the Spade Kingdom raid. He also held capital territory against Eye of the Midnight Sun squads during the Royal Capital invasion, which speaks more to his strategic mind than people give him credit for. Because that's the other side of Fuegoleon. He's a genuinely brilliant military mind who understands defense and keeps squad morale intact under pressure. The coolest part about him is probably his firearm though. Seker Swallowtail, 8.2 out of 10. Seker is a waifu material. I mean, she spent 500 years holding the most important secrets in the world. A member of the Black Bulls, she is also one of the oldest surviving magical entities in the Clover Kingdom. She was a royal servant who watched the elves' massacre happen. Then she spent 5 centuries locked in a bird's body as a price for using forbidden magic. She sealed Princess Titalia's fatal wounds to preserve her bloodline. She also sealed the first wizard king Lumiere into a statue to keep him alive against all natural logic. Then she sealed the demon Zagrid into a stone tomb. All 3 in the same catastrophic night. She uses sealing magic at an arcane stage level, which means her abilities operate on abstract concepts than just physical objects. Wounds, magic, souls, time. If it exists, she can potentially lock it away. Her masterpiece spell, Eternal Prison, demonstrated that sealing directly during the Spade Kingdom raid, where she temporarily sealed Magicula, a supreme devil, which is a kind of feat that reframes every earlier character on this list. The limitations are serious. 0 offensive output means she needs an ally to actually finish any fight she controls. Her most powerful forbidden sealing areas inflict Weg, Black Horns, Soul Corruption, mounting physical strain on her human form. Every time she reaches for her absolute sealing, it costs her something permanent. Dorothy Unsworth, 8.4 out of 10, but in her dream world she's a 10 out of 10. She's asleep all the time and she's still one of the most powerful in the Cloververse. Dorothy is the captain of the Coral Peacock, and she spends most of her time completely passed out, but that's just misdirection, because she uses dream magic. Her signature spell is Glamour World. It's a full alternate dimension that she physically pulls targets into, where her thoughts and concepts become real. Inside Glamour World, the normal rules stop applying. She decides what exists and what doesn't. Physics is just a suggestion. However, she still does have weaknesses. Glamour World has to physically expand and catch its targets inside its boundary first. A fast enough opponent can simply outrun before it closes. The other issue is stranger. If someone inside the dreamscape can trick her into imagining her own defeat, or a self-destruction scenario, the whole dimension collapses from the inside. Her greatest weapon has an off switch, and it's her own imagination. Real Boys Mortier has a threat level of 8.6 out of 10. Real is probably what every artist wishes they could be. The captain of Aqua Deer, and he looks the part of anything except a Grand Magic Knight. He's childish and easily distracted by artistic potential of a good fight, but underneath that is one of the most genuinely broken skill sets on the entire list. He uses picture magic. Whatever he can envision, he can paint into reality using his magical brush and palette. Elemental disasters, defensive constructs, multi-attribute combinations. If he can imagine it, it exists. That 10 out of 10 adaptability score isn't generous, it's just accurate for him. There's no elemental matchup problem for a mage who can simply paint whatever counterattack. His masterpiece spell is Twilight Valhalla. It's a massive mana zone painting that amplifies his allies' magic and grants them temporary invulnerability, as in his allies could not die if they tried. During the Spade Kingdom raid, he sustained that spell under Lucifero's supreme gravity pressure, keeping his squad alive and negating fatal wounds in real time. He also clashed on equal terms with Yuno during the Royal Knights exam, which is a serious benchmark given where Yuno sits on any power list right now. The limitations are directly tied to what makes him special though. His output is emotionally dependent. An artistic block or a demoralizing hit to his confidence and his magical output drops noticeably. He also needs physical brush movements to paint, which means a fast enough opponent can close the gap and shut him down before anything manifests. Charmy Papitson, 8.8 out of 10. She showed up to the Magic Knights exam thinking about food and she still kicked everybody's assholes. Charmy is a Magic Knight of the Black Bulls, and she is the single greatest argument against judging anyone by first impressions. Small, relentlessly cheerful, motivated almost exclusively by meals. The food obsession reads as a personality quirk right up until her dwarven heritage activates, and the entire energy of the situation changes completely. She operates in 2 distinct modes. Standard Charmy uses cotton magic, soft, defensive, relatively modest in raw output. Dwarven Charmy uses food magic, and that changes everything. Her Masterstroke spell, Glutton's Banquet, materializes a massive wolf with a fork and knife that eats incoming elemental magic. After that, it converts that spell directly into stamina and mana replenishment for herself and her allies. The stronger the spell an opponent fires at her, the better the meal. The better the meal, the stronger she gets. That mechanic produced some genuinely significant results. She defeated the elf-possessed Captain Rill, a mage who earlier on this list scored an 8.6 by simply eating through his picture magic. During the Judgment Day arc, she replenished Mimosa's completely depleted mana reserves, which enabled a country-level healing spell on Asta at a moment where the outcome of the entire arc depended on it. Her limitations are narrow, but there. Cotton magic alone is a significant downgrade, and food magic requires her to actively perceive an incoming attack as food. Purely physical, non-magical strikes that don't register as a meal can reach her before the wolf does anything about it. Noct Faust, 8.8 out of 10. These are seriously dangerous people at this level. He's got more devils than you've got girls. Noct is the vice captain of the Black Bulls, and he's everything that squad is not. He's disciplined, quiet, and efficient. He also spent years operating as a spy deep inside the Spade Kingdom. He uses shadow magic to slip through darkness, teleport between shadows, and manifest physical restraints on targets. But the real depth of his kit comes from his 4 devils: Gimodello, Slotos, Plumade, and Wagner. Each devil union shifts him into a specialized combat form covering clone generation, heavy physical defense, high-speed agility, and paralysis. He can also merge with 2 devils at the same time to combine their traits. The weaknesses are straightforward. Shadowless light completely grounds him, no darkness means no mobility, and his entire fighting style collapses without it. Running multiple devil unions simultaneously also puts serious physical strain on his body. He is powerful, but he is still human underneath all of it. William Vengeance is a 9.0 out of 10. My main issue with William is that we only saw him getting his ass kicked. Like, he's the captain of the Golden Dawn, which makes sense because he's the strongest mage after Julius. This is the #1 ranked squad in the Clover Kingdom, man. Behind the signature mask sits one of the most respected military minds in the series. He uses World Tree magic to generate massive towering magical trees that he can use offensively by binding, crushing, or even absorbing the mana from opponents. He can also use it to distribute life force and rapidly heal multiple injured members at the same time. He used it to save half the Golden Dawn squad after Xenon's attack. He also clashed on equal terms with Yami. The vulnerabilities are too real though. His massive tree spells need time and significant starting mana to fully grow and branch out. An ultra-fast spatial erasure or anti-magic hit in that opening window can shut him down before his roots ever take hold. There is also the emotional weight of his past connection with Patry, which has shown it can affect his resolve at the worst possible moments. Julius Novachrono should have been higher, but man got power crapped. He has an overall threat of 9.2 out of 10. Just don't ask him for the time because he'll probably take yours. Julius is the 28th Wizard King and the single most magic-obsessed person in the entire Clover Kingdom. The enthusiasm of a child discovering fire combined with the raw power to back every bit of it up. His gentle, curious demeanor is genuinely disarming, right up until the moment the air goes heavy and the entire squad freezes in their tracks without understanding why. He uses time magic and can accelerate, decelerate, stop, and outright reverse the flow of time in localized areas. He steals time from opponents he defeats and stores it directly in his grimoire, which doubles as a personal healing reserve. Fatal wounds get reversed by simply rewinding his own body. He can also trap targets inside fast expanding time loop spheres that offer essentially no conventional escape route. Against the Eye of the Midnight Sun during the Royal Capital invasion, he tracked and captured Lightspeed invaders. Then during the Elf Reincarnation arc, he spent his entire stored life force in one move to shield the whole kingdom from Patry's attack. He used the resource that kept him alive to protect everyone else. That single moment explains his character completely. The weaknesses are straightforward. His healing and time reversal run entirely on stored time. Drain that reserve and he becomes genuinely vulnerable. His love for the kingdom's citizens is also well known, which makes hostage situations an effective lever against him that a smart opponent would absolutely exploit. People just starting the series would be surprised at Nozel Silva getting an overall threat ranking of 9.5 out of 10. But she's super strong, man. Like, if you thought she was the main character, I would understand that. Noelle is a third-class junior Magic Knight of the Black Bulls. She started as someone who couldn't fire a basic water ball without it exploding in the wrong direction. The gap between that version of her and the current one is one of the best character arcs in Black Clover. She uses water magic, and at one point she actually performs Spirit Dive with Undyne the Water Spirit. This gives her the ability to use Saint Valkyrie armor and the ability to harm devils, but this contract is undone when Magicula curses Undyne. Much later, she even contracts with Leviathan, who is a legendary sea deity. This allows her to manifest a new form. That form gives her high-speed flight, absolute physical reinforcement, and the ability to fire country-level water blasts with surgical precision. The growth from panicked novice to someone who can hit moving targets at light speeds is the real story here. The power came second. There are real limitations though. Her ultimate forms burn through magical stamina fast, and drawn-out war of attrition leaves her completely dry. Her family also remains an emotional pressure point that a smart opponent would be looking to exploit from the opening moment. Yami Sukehiro, 9.7 out of 10. If you think about it, he's kind of like the Arnold Schwarzenegger of the Black Clover universe. He's the retired captain of the Black Bulls now, currently sitting in the Special Reserve Corps. He retired only because he didn't want to be serving under the new Wizard King, Asta. He's the single most physically imposing presence on the entire list. The towering frame, the perpetual stubble, the casual death threats delivered with complete sincerity. His mana pressure alone is enough to pin weaker mages to the ground without him doing anything intentional. He uses dark magic, channeled entirely through his katana, Darkness naturally slows and absorbs other forms of magic around it, which already makes it a nightmare matchup for elemental mages. But the real weapon is that what he does with it combined with Ki, a physical combat principle that lets him read opponents' movements and emotional states in real time. That combination produces spells like Dark Cloaked Dimension Slash, a strike that doesn't cut through targets, it cuts through the space they're occupying. During the Spade Kingdom raid, he cleaved through Lucifer's physical body and drew blood from a supreme devil being. In the manga, he also slashed through a conceptual boundary itself during the fight against Paladin Morgan Faust. There are some weaknesses, but narrow for him. Dark magic is naturally slow to generate on its own, meaning without his katana and physical reinforcement, he loses the speed that makes him lethal. His fighting style is also brutally self-destructive. He wins fights, but he tends to finish them with serious damage done to himself. The interesting thing is that he washed up on a strange nation and then became one of the most popular men there, just like the Terminator. Hasta la vista, baby. Mereoleona Vermillion. She's easily one of the strongest people, and that's why, because she's a true force of nature, gets a 9.9 out of 10. David Goggins is nothing. Team Mereoleona. She's the former captain of the Crimson Lion, and she's the single most terrifying person in the entire Clover Kingdom, because she's a force of nature in human form. She trains in lava. If she fails, she dies. Just how hardcore is that? She uses flame magic and her output is already insane, but her ultimate technique takes everything to another level. With Hellfire Incarnate, she becomes pure mana. In this form, she's untouchable by physical strikes, immune to modification magic, and unaffected by extreme temperatures. She doesn't even need to tank hits anymore, hits pass through her. That intangibility showed up directly against Paladin Morris, where she bypassed conceptual modification and dismantled his forces. She also personally incinerated the core of a mountain-sized ancient demon during the Spade Kingdom raid, which is exactly as casual as she made it look. However, this power comes at an incredible cost. Maintain Hellfire Incarnate for too long and she risks disappearing completely. The other limitation is simpler. She has no support spells. No utility, no non-destructive options. She's a weapon of pure destruction. That's it. Yuno Grinburial is tied with Mereoleona with a threat level of 9.9 out of 10. I know you're gonna fight me, but hear me out. If you think about it, Yuno was just handed everything in life. Yuno's the captain of the Golden Dawn and the rightful heir to the Spade Kingdom throne, but he was raised in an orphanage along with Asta and the Clover Kingdom. He wields both wind magic and star magic, two separate attributes operating simultaneously. On the wind side, he partners with Sylph, the great wind spirit, and through Spirit Dive, he can use the spirit of Boreas. This is a state where he achieves a state of complete mana harmony. This lets him decay physical constructs and dominate the ambient mana of the surrounding area. On the star side, he manifests cosmic stars. These let him vanish and reappear anywhere in his grid faster than most opponents can track. That combination shut down Xenon's Agratis during the Spade Kingdom castle fight. He cleaved through a supreme devil host and bypassed spatial mana domination. Bear in mind that this was a technique that was essentially impenetrable up to that point. In the manga, he also gave Asta one of the toughest battles before he finally lost. His one real limitation is concentration. Maintaining a dual attribute Spirit Dive while actively coordinating a star teleportation grid is an enormous mental load. An opponent with enough pressure and absolute physical erasure can eventually drain that focus and force him to make mistakes. Asta, a threat level of 10 out of 10. If you need any further proof that Asta was from the hood, just look at the last panel. All that bling. He's the 29th Wizard King, former Black Bull, and the single greatest contradiction in the Clover Kingdom ever produced. He was born with zero mana in a world that measures human worth entirely on magical ability. He was raised in an orphanage, in the Forsaken Realm. He was basically at the lowest rung of society. Then he climbed every rung of that society and claimed the throne at the top of it, without doing anything dirty or taking shortcuts. He uses anti-magic, channeled through his 5-leaf grimoire and his Devil Lieb. It doesn't compete with magic, it erases it. Time manipulation, spatial erasure, reality warping, curse energy, it doesn't matter what category that ability falls into. Anti-magic touches it and it stops existing. Every magical defense that took a lifetime to build becomes completely meaningless the moment one of his 4 demon swords makes contact. The 4 swords are Demon Slayer, Demon Dweller, Demon Destroyer, and Demon Slasher. He's also a master of Zetten, which is a physical technique that concentrates anti-magic into precise, devastating bursts. Using that, he erased the conceptual core of Lucius Agratis during the Judgment Day arc, a multi-devil godlike being. Then in the manga, he defeated Yuno in a direct duel to claim the crown. The only real vulnerability is the one baked into his entire existence from birth. Zero mana means purely physical objects, debris, non-magical weapons, falling rocks, a spoon, bypass his nullification entirely. He can't erase what was never magical to begin with. His physical strength and Zetan strikes mean this gap is manageable, but it remains the one crack in an otherwise complete picture. So if you made it this far, I want to know why the hell haven't you subscribed, man? Please subscribe. Also, you can watch this video if you like this one. Also, subscribe, man. Come on. You can do it.